it's really valuable to be able to translate the energy medicines across the different ranges of perception, from hearing to seeing to smelling to tasting to feeling. It's good to be able to transfer back and forth. So I thought it would be good to do a healing at this point to support everybody's ability to do that more effectively. Now that process is known as synesthesia. And what it really is a byproduct of an individual experiencing any kind of sensory input at a subtle level of perception. Because if we experience the sensory input at the dense level of perception, then it's going to necessarily come out through the different actual senses. But when awareness settles down a bit, and we get down into that filtration level of the being, then we start to be able to move across the barriers or boundaries between the different senses more effectively. And it's a really beautiful capability. It's a beautiful gift to be able to do that. Because if you can transfer information across from one sensory mode to another, it does several things. One is it gives you depth perception on whatever that impulse is. Because if you can hear it, and you can also see it, and you can also feel it, then you understand it as more of a complete experience than if it's coming in through one channel only. Which I'd like to add as an aside is one reason for some people why the tones that they hear can be a little annoying, because the tones are input from the universe. If we were able to hear the sound that the universe makes, it makes a kind of a humming sound. Sometimes Om is used as the syllable to describe that sound, but it's actually normally through our physiology heard as pitches of various kinds, sometimes very high pitches or very, very low pitches, or sometimes mixtures of pitches. And so it's important to know that when the ears start talking to you and they start telling you that something's up, it's because something's up at that moment. And it's good to honor that sound value because it's full of information. It's a lot of information coming in really fast. So I thought it might be good for a moment just to take a second and put some attention and all hear the tones together. Just like we're all feeling the softness in our world together right now, in our environment. Like the nature, the weather is full of this soft energy today. Also, the air is full of tones. So what we're going to do for a moment is close the eyes. And I'm going to try this. I've done this like one-on-one with people. I've never done it in a big group, so we'll see how it goes. But I'm going to close the eyes. Oh, and if you can, go ahead and put hand over the heart. This is a little exercise. Close the eyes, hand over the heart. And just a little moment of, I love you. I love you. Emotions are light medicines, energy medicines. So when we put the hand over the heart, we bring the I love you into the heart chakra area, right over the center of the chest. It creates a feeling of sweetness, a feeling of adoration. Notice how completely precious your own love for yourself is. It's more precious than anybody else's love because nobody knows you better. So our own self-love is the greatest gift we can ever give. Now, with hand over the heart and that sweetness coming in, it's the love of the divinity for its own creation, right? Because that's what this is. All of this is just divinity expressing itself. Now, a little bit of attention to the ears. And even though I've got machines around me here, I've got these lights going on and my computer, I can hear the tone. And I'm going to sing the pitch. There's the pitch, only it's about, I would say, 6 octaves higher. 6 octaves higher, but there's the pitch. And this tone, it's a sweet, sweet little tone, is coming in just like a little wave of softness. Only instead of feeling it like a wave of love in the heart, you get to hear it. You get to hear what it sounds like. Now I'm feeling the tone spreading out a little bit, and I'm hearing other pitches. And they're making a beautiful, complex, luscious, like a jazz chord way up at the high frequencies. I'm just giving everyone a minute to hear that. All right, let's open our eyes. So just out of curiosity, did some people hear the pitches? Anybody hear pitches? Oh yeah, we got pitches. We got pitches going on. Beautiful in this room. Oh, and more raised hands. More raised hands over here on the, many, 4, 5, 6, 8 people raising hands. Beautiful. Wow, all right, good job everybody. So what we did, that was a little exercise in synesthesia, and doing that kind of exercise will help cultivate a sort of oil up, we could say, oil up the passageways or the channels between the different senses at subtle levels of perception. So what that means is that we can start to move between feeling and hearing. We could have done the same exercise, putting our attention on the eyes and the whole visual, the occipital system of the body, and looked at it as a color instead. And that's as easy to do that as it is to hear the tones. Just a little anecdote. When I first heard the tones, I had been on a driving trip with a beautiful, amazing, enlightened friend of mine's, fabulous woman who was a longtime teacher at the school where I was teaching at the time. And we had been on this long driving trip, and on the way back on the trip, my ears were really ringing with these tones. And she mentioned the ringing sound in the ears. And I said, oh, I'm having that too. And she said, oh yes, you're hearing the tones. And then she started describing her tones to me, and they were the same tones I was hearing. Her tones were my tone. We were hearing the same tones, just like we all get to enjoy the same weather, So anyway, so we were listening to the tones together, and she said that she used them, that she'd been using them for years, that whenever she had a classroom management problem arise, that she found that she would stop, she would listen to the tones, and after she'd listened to the tones, she would have information of how to deal with that particular classroom problem. And she said it worked every time, and I was like, wow. I hadn't even thought about it. I just thought that was tinnitus, right? Isn't that like a noise? Right? But the fact is that there are all these different functions. There are all these different aspects that are around us all the time. We don't always necessarily recognize them as forms of the transcendent peeking through into the relative.